There are things we see on television and think they're just exaggerated plot lines until the day a street kid hears the earth cry. It was a suffocating night in the outskirts of the city. One of those nights where the heat fights against sleep. The asphalt still steamed and the sky was so still that even the clouds didn't move. And in the middle of it all, there he was, Diggin' Ho, barely 11 years old, a torn t-shirt, feet more callous than an old soul, and eyes that hid more past than future. Diggin' Ho was sleeping under an awning, using an old backpack as a pillow, until he woke up because of a sound. But it wasn't a scream or a honk or a siren. It was a muffled whisper, as if the earth had something stuck in its throat. He got up slowly, looking around, thinking it was in his head. But again, the sound, a dull moan coming from the vacant lot across the street. Is someone there? He asked, more out of fear than curiosity. Silence, but a silence that weighed, a silence that seemed to beg for help. Diggin' Ho crossed the street, his bare feet crunching over the sand. He approached the lot and suddenly saw a small patch of dirt moving, as if it were alive. He stepped back, afraid, but then he heard it again, a faint sound, almost lifeless. Help! Diggin' Ho's eyes widened. It was real. Someone was buried there. Without thinking, the boy dropped to his knees and began digging with his bare hands. The dirt was heavy, hot, mixed with debris and weeds, but he didn't stop. He dug and dug and dug until he felt something, a piece of fabric. Then, the edge of a hand. My God, he whispered, panting. It was a man, buried alive. And the scariest part, he was still breathing. Diggin' Ho screamed for help, but on that deserted street, only the wind answered. So he kept digging, sweating, trembling, until he managed to pull the man's body out with difficulty. The man coughed up dirt, his eyes wide with terror. And then he looked at the child and said in a hoarse, weak voice, "You saved my life. I'm a millionaire." Diggin' Ho swallowed hard, but nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared him for what this man was about to reveal. The man was lying on the ground like someone who had just come out of his own grave, pale face, covered in dirt and cold sweat. His hands trembled, his eyes wide open, as if still frozen in the moment they saw the shovel come down for the last time. But what stood out the most were his clothes. Though dirty with mud and dry blood, it was clear he wasn't an ordinary man. Expensive suit, shiny watch on his wrist, even caked with mud, and the shoes, or what was left of them, still carried the glimmer of someone who had never walked a street like Diggin' Ho's. "Are you okay?" the boy asked, almost out of breath. The man tried to speak, but only coughed. He spat out dirt. He coughed up memories. He coughed up fear, until, with effort, he muttered, "They buried me alive. Someone wanted to erase me." Diggin' Ho looked around, stomach in knots. This wasn't a movie. It was real, and it was happening to him. "Who did this to you?" he insisted. The man closed his eyes, like someone trying to remember a nightmare that had become real. "My name is Caesar. Caesar Lemos. I own all of this around here. No one was supposed to know I survived." Diggin' Ho took a step back. Owner of all this abandoned neighborhood, this street with no streetlights, this vacant lot where he hid when it rained. It was too much for his mind. But then Caesar grabbed his arm with desperate strength and spoke with eyes wide in panic. "You saved me, kid. Now my life is in your hands, and there are people who will want to silence us both." Diggin' Ho felt a chill down his spine. Sweat ran down his neck. It wasn't just fear. It was the feeling that something much bigger, much more dangerous, had just begun. "You got a phone?" Caesar asked, panting. The boy burst out laughing without a trace of joy. "If I had a phone, I'd be sleeping in a bed, not on cardboard." Caesar tried to get up, but his legs gave out. He fell to his knees, as if he had forgotten how to stand in the world of the living. "Take me somewhere, anywhere, before they come back." "Who?" the child asked, voice trembling. Sar looked around, as if the darkness had eyes. "My son, my business partner. Someone buried me thinking I'd never come out." Diggin' Ho felt his blood freeze, and without really knowing why, he made a decision that would change everything. He reached out his hand to the man and said, "Come on, doctor, before the earth decides it wants you back." But what Diggin' Ho didn't know was that by pulling Caesar out of the grave, he had just buried his own peace. Digano took Caesar to the only place he knew, a makeshift shelter under a bridge underneath. The smell was a mix of mold, old urine, and exhausted hope. He shared that space with other invisibles, people the world had already forgotten. But that night, the shelter became a sanctuary. C. Acute Tsar, trembling, lay down on a torn piece of mattress. His hands, still full of dirt, seemed to cling to life, afraid of losing it again. "I need the doctor," he murmured. Digano looked around. No doctor here. He had to improvise. He took an old water bottle he had saved, cleaned the man's face with a piece of T-shirt, and tried to calm him like he had seen mothers do with their children on buses. "You're safe now. Stay here. Rest. I'll see what I can do." But deep down, panic was rising. What if someone came looking for this man? What if they saw him with Caesar? What if they thought he was the one who had done all this? He ran out into the street, digging through cans and papers, looking for food, help, a miracle. Meanwhile, Caesar was sweating profusely. Every outside noise echoed in his chest. He relived everything: the blow to the head, the black bag, the smell of damp earth, the cold voice saying, "Goodbye, Dad." That word, Dad, repeated like a knife in his memory. He knew who had done it, but he didn't know why. Hours later, Digano returned with an improvised bandage, some stale bread, and a torn blanket. "I found this, and also this," he said, showing a damp flyer from a public clinic. Caesar looked at the boy with tear-filled eyes. "Why are you helping me?" Digano shrugged. "Because no one ever helped me, and I know what that feels like." They looked at each other, a child with no home, a millionaire with no land. And there, in the silence of the night, Caesar revealed the first part of the secret. "They wanted my money, but there's more. Things that, if I tell, they could kill us." Digano didn't answer, but he understood, in that moment, that he was plunged into a story no one would believe, and that he would see things even hell wouldn't dare explain. The day broke as if the world had no clue what had happened. The sun beat hard on the cracked concrete, and cars passed over the bridge as if beneath it there were no life and no near death. Caesar woke up with a start, heart pounding. For a moment, he thought he was still buried, but no, the stench, the rats running nearby, the dirty face of the child, all of it was real and cruelly alive. "They'll come looking for my body," he murmured, eyes staring into the void. "What body?" asked Digano, chewing on a piece of stale bread. "Mine. They think I'm dead. When they find out I'm not, they'll want to finish the job." Digano felt his stomach twist. It was like he had pulled someone out of hell and brought him home. But now, it was too late. "Who's they?" The boy pressed Dasi Acute Tsar took a deep breath. He looked around, and then, in a low voice, he told him, "My son, Enrique, and my partner, Otavio. They planned everything, but it wasn't just for the money. I discovered something. There was a list with names, important people, rotten people." Digano frowned. A list of what? Corruption, money laundering, murder, a massive system, much bigger than my company. The boy didn't understand everything, but he felt the weight. Those words tasted like lead. "They're afraid. You'll talk." Not just afraid, terrified. Because if that list falls into the right hands, it brings down a lot of people, politicians, judges, businessmen. Digano swallowed hard. "You have the list." Caesar slowly nodded. "It's on a USB drive, hidden in a safe, and now I'm the only one who knows the code." The boy's eyes widened. It sounded like a movie scene, but it was real. "To real? Is that why they buried you alive?" "Exactly. They wanted the code, but I didn't tell them. I chose to die, and I did, for a few hours." Digano stayed silent. The wind blew, stirring up dust and memories. There, under the bridge, he realized he was sitting next to a man who knew too much, and because of that, was too dangerous. "Will you help me?" Caesar asked, voice broken. Digano looked at the man, then the cracked sky, then his own life, which had never been worth anything, and he said, "I will, but if anyone asks, I never met you." And at that moment, Caesar smiled for the first time, but neither of them knew that someone was already tracking their steps. While the two hid under the bridge, on the other side of the city, someone was watching a security feed. The camera Caesar had secretly installed had been accessed by a cold, expressionless face, Otavio, the business partner. He had seen everything. The child digging, the body being pulled out, the escape, the vow of revenge, buried alive, but unearthed by chance. Otavio slammed the laptop shut. He grabbed his phone and made a single call. He's alive. On the other end, the voice was low, but sharp as a blade. Then kill him properly this time. Meanwhile, under the bridge, Diggin' was trying to figure out what came next. They couldn't stay there. The place was too exposed, and Caesar could barely stand. Fear overwhelmed them both, but it was a nameless, faceless fear, which made it all the more dangerous. Where's the safe? The boy asked. Old Town, abandoned office building. My company's former headquarters. No one's been in there for years, but I have the key. Why hide it there? Caesar sighed. The answer came slowly, heavy with guilt, because it was the only place that felt safe. Fool that I was, trusting snakes disguised as sons. Silence fell like a hammer. Diggin' thought about his own father, or rather, his absence. He didn't even know the man's name, just his contempt. So, are we going? Are you sure? Caesar asked. They'll come after us. The boy laughed, joylessly. Around here, people can't even find their own soul. I know the shortcuts. They grabbed an old bag, packed what little they had, a torn blanket, the water bottles, and fear wrapped in courage, and they started walking, Diggin' leading the way. Caesar limping, sweating, carrying not only his battered body, but the weight of everything he knew. Downtown was far, nearly 2 hours on foot, and along the way, footsteps echoed behind them. Eyes appeared and vanished in the alleys, shadows that seemed to know 2 cents, and suddenly, the first bullet ripped through the air. Diggin' dove to the ground. Caesar fell on top of him, shielding him. Run, the child shouted, but it was too late. Someone already knew that the dead man was walking again. The bullet had passed so close that its whistle still rang in Diggin' ears as they rolled into an alley. His heart pounded so loud it felt like it was trying to escape his chest. Caesar groaned, gasping, his face pale once again. Did they hit you? The boy asked, kneeling beside him. No, but barely. The alley was narrow, foul-smelling and full of trash, but by a miracle, it had no easy exit. That was a good thing for now. Heavy footsteps approached on the street, but didn't enter the alley. They passed by. Whoever had fired the shot thought they'd hit their target, but now things were clear. They were being hunted, trembling. Diggin' dragged Caesar with strength, guiding him toward the end of the alley to a loose grate. They crawled under it, emerging into an abandoned parking lot. We'll have to go around through the old tunnel, said the boy. You know all this by heart. Diggin' gave a half smile. Better than my own story. They reached the tunnel, a forgotten part of the city's sewer system. It smelled of filth and time, but it would do. Along the way, Caesar started to talk more. Otavio was always ambitious, but I never thought he could bury someone alive. Diggin' interrupted. Yes, said Caesar, voice broken and enrique. My own son. Money changes people's minds, said the boy, but deep down, it just reveals who they already were. The phrase hung in the air, heavier than the stench of the tunnel. When they emerged on the other side, they were already close to the old downtown. The building, a concrete tower of rot, stood out among the ruins of a city decaying from within. That's it. Caesar pointed. Quick, before anyone else shows up. They climbed the emergency stairs. The elevator had been out of service for decades. Every step was a challenge for the wounded man, and when they finally reached the 8th floor, Caesar stopped in front of a gray door. This is it. The safe is inside. Diggin' reached out to open it, but a sharp click froze the air. Someone was already inside and this time, it wasn't a shadow. It was a man, in a suit, armed, smiling. The undead has arrived. The voice that echoed on that abandoned 8th floor wasn't that of a stranger. It was familiar, intimate, painful. Enrique, murmured Caesar, his soul falling from his eyes. The man in the suit, gun in hand, an icy smile on his lips, simply nodded. Impeccable hair, upright posture, shoes shining despite the dusty floor. Everything about him exuded power, except his eyes, which screamed emptiness. Dad, you should have stayed buried. That would have been more dignified. Diggin' stepped between them, fist clenched, chest heaving. He's not dying a second time. Enrique let out a mocking laugh. And who are you? The new watchdog. Cute, a beggar saving another. Caesar breathed deeply, trying to stand on his own. You tried to kill me. Enrique, your own father, because you weren't my father anymore. You were an obstacle. You had everything to retire in peace, but you wanted to play. The hero, that list, that damn USB stick, it was the truth, Caesar shouted, tears in his eyes. You didn't have to get involved with those people. I tried to protect you. Lies, Enrique exploded, stepping forward. You always wanted to control everything, even my life, my decisions, my mistakes. You're a tyrant disguised as a hero. The revolver trembled in the sun's hand. Digenho felt the air freeze. Caesar, with a broken voice, murmured, "If I have to die again, let it be looking you in the eyes. But know this, you're already dead inside." Enrique swallowed hard. His hand wavered Dot, and in that split second, Digenho threw an old kin to the ground, making a loud crash. Enrique turned his head, and Caesar lunged at him. The two rolled on the floor, fighting. The gun slid away and landed near Digenho. The child hesitated. His small hands grabbed the cold metal. It was heavy and terrifying. "Give me that, kid," Enrique yelled, getting up, his face bloodied. But Digenho didn't hand it over. He aimed. For the first time in his life, someone listened to his voice with fear. "Take one more step, and I'll shoot." Double quote silence. Enrique froze, and he looked at the child like someone staring at a dirty reflection of their own childhood. "You have the same eyes I did when I was thrown into this world." And then he smiled, slowly, cynically. "Maybe that's why I hate you so much." But before he could move, another click sounded. It was Caesar, holding the gun this time, pointed straight at his own son. Caesar held the gun with a steady hand, but his soul, it trembled like a dry leaf blown by the wind. "I love you, Enrique, even when you hated me, even when you betrayed me." Enrique didn't back away. He stood there, looking at his father like facing the mirror of his own failure. "You never loved anyone, Dad. You only ever loved power." Caesar sighed, eyes wet. "Power corrupted me, but love was buried with me." Digenho, in the background, watched, and he understood. This moment was more than a confrontation. It was the end of a dirty, rotten cycle that had to die so someone could be reborn. "I should kill you," Caesar said, "but I won't." Enrique frowned. No, because killing you would be repeating the mistake. "I'm going to do something else. I'm going to expose you with everything I have. The list is right here." Caesar pulled from his inner pocket a small USB stick covered in dried blood and dirt. Enrique's eyes widened. You had that on you all this time." "Yes, even buried. I knew one day I'd have to show the world what you'd become." Enrique tried to move forward, but this time, Digenho was quicker. With a precise kick, he knocked him down again. "Now, truth is in charge here." Caesar looked at the child, for the first time, with pure gratitude, as if seeing in him the son he hadn't had the courage to be, and in that moment, the police burst in. Digenho had sent word, with the help of a ground floor doorman, hours earlier. A silent cry for help. Enrique was handcuffed. Blank stare, no reaction. And Caesar, collapsing to the floor, finally wept. The list on the USB stick was a bomb. Names of politicians, judges, CEOs, even police officers. The scandal hit the front pages, headlines, interviews, protests. The city, for the first time in a long time, stopped to listen to the truth. Caesar struck a deal with the public prosecutor's office. He handed over everything and agreed to testify. Enrique was charged with attempted murder, conspiracy, money laundering, and criminal association. But even behind bars, he kept the smile of someone who thinks a good lawyer will fix it all. But not this time. Because society finally wanted blood, and this time it wanted justice. Caesar was transferred to a prison hospital to recover. His lungs still carried the dirt of that improvised grave, but his heart had started beating differently, and Digenho, the boy stayed with him. He was recognized as the one who enabled a millionaire survival. He got attention, shelter offers, but he refused many things. "I just want to study and have a place to sleep." Caesar heard that and promised more. Caesar took Digenho to his former mansion, but upon arrival, seeing the cold walls, the spotless marble, he felt disgust. That house wasn't a home. It was a useless luxury mausoleum. "We'll start over somewhere else," he told the child, and they did. They moved into a small house in the north side of the city, tiny, but filled with the scent of warm meals and a living soul. There, Diggin' had a room of his own, a wardrobe, a pair of brand new sneakers, but above all, a name on a school form. "Not Diggin' huh?" said Caesar. "What's your real name, kid?" The child hesitated. "Daniel." "Then let the world know Daniel, the boy who dug me out of death." Caesar began to write a book, a testimony, titled Buried Alive. He told everything, the corruption, the crime, the betrayal, but above all, the redemption, and he dedicated the book to Daniel. The story went viral. Publishing houses fought over the rights. Caesar donated half the profits to shelters for street children. The other half was used to open the city's first night school, exclusively for youth like Daniel. The name of the school, Diggin' Institute of Hope. And there, at the inauguration, wearing a cheap suit, Daniel gave a speech. "If I found someone buried, it's because I already knew what it feels like to be dead inside. But now, I just want to live." Enrique got 18 years, and he didn't appeal. At the trial, he remained silent. But in a letter sent to Caesar, he wrote a single sentence: "Forgive the one who buried you, because what I truly buried was the child I used to be." Caesar read it and cried, but he didn't reply, because now he had another son. Daniel was growing up, fast, strong heart, sharp mind. He stood out in school, and more than that, he inspired others. CEQs officially adopted him. He signed the papers with a trembling hand. "Now, you are Daniel Lemos, but can I still be Diggin' too?" he asked. "Of course, because now you are whoever you want to be." Years later, Daniel became a lawyer, specialized in social justice. He visited the alleys where he had grown up. He brought blankets, food, but above all, hope. "If I made it out, so can you," he told the dirty children who looked at him as a miracle in a suit. And Caesar, already old, he walked with a cane, but he insisted on attending his son's conferences. He sat in the front row and cried, always, "This child saved me from the world and from myself." The press called him a hero, but Daniel rejected the compliments. The real hero is the one who chooses not to bury anyone, even when they're angry. At the inauguration of the new wing of the Institute, in honor of Caesar, a phrase was engraved on the wall: "Sometimes you have to die to finally be born." Caesar, moved, read the phrase. He held his son's hand and whispered, "I was only born again because you dug with your hands and with your heart." Today, few people know that Daniel was once a street kid, and even fewer know that one day he dug with his bare hands to save a millionaire from the earth. But if you ask him, you'll hear, "I didn't save him. We saved each other." And if you ask Caesar, now bearded, with a soft smile and a peaceful look, he'll say, "There are lives we bury by mistake, but others we dig up by miracle. And that's why I'm telling you, my child, there are stories that begin with death, but end in rebirth." So tell me, would you believe me if I told you all this is true? Well, it is. And if you're one of those who loves a good story, leave your like and subscribe, or you'll miss the next tale. See you next time. From your Grandpa Rich.